Hello, trading is closed on August 10th, 2017. Let's go over yesterday's calls. I was looking for a drop today, ideally beginning by gapping down. I said the way to invalidate Wednesday's day-long rally would be to gap down, promptly undercut this low, which is what happened. It's always gratifying to cross an old MEJT target off the list, which we'll do with this one. And it's really gratifying when the market remembers the number as resistance well after it's printed. As always, unlike other systems, MEJT targets have their greatest risk-reward ratios not when they're generated, but when prices are far away from the numbers. MEJT in a market which dropped all day gave a few signals to buy. Here was one, target was hit. Here was one. Even when it started dropping, it said prices would retrace. There's the F for the false move, and the target was hit. No new signals. Before going over tomorrow's call, let's go over the long-term picture. Tomorrow's pattern typically has an early high, has a strong tendency to rally all day long. Kind of goes against the trend of the last few days, for sure. Well, this was the count I had on 19th of July. I've had to move C from here to here to keep in concordance with everything else. And I had this A over here. I've decided to move it over here because when I do, using hindsight, A is equal to C right at 2289.61, which is within about 1 point of the actual high. I think it gives credence to my interpretation of this as a three-wave structure, and it also gives credence to my belief that this leg's over. If it's over, and if there's a fibrillationship between wave A and wave C, we're in for a pretty big drop. And if we drop and close within the fourth wave of previous degree, we have price targets about 1965 and 1841. This would be twice A, and for a number of other reasons, it's the one I prefer. Doesn't mean it happens tomorrow, obviously. We've broken this trend line. We've gone over a few times, and based on some DeMark stuff, we should print under 2381 at least at some point. But when I see a trend line like this, a slanting trend line that breaks in a straight line, normally I see a recovery to this line at some point. Well, what about tomorrow's pattern? As I say, it should have an end. It should have an early high. In a less negative long-term pattern, this wouldn't be too hard to call. This is a wall into the close. Typically, it's met by gapping up tomorrow. This is a wall. This is a hole in the wall gap. Typically, these gaps fill, and we find resistance over this high, and usually they fill pretty quickly. That seems kind of hard to believe after a drop like this one. But when the consolidation is between the 61.8 and the 38.2% range of this move, that's usually it. And if we do take this out, a significant percentage of the time it's a false move. Now the only way this drop could be called a false move is if we gap up sharply tomorrow and promptly take out this high. I'm reluctant to make any calls to rally when the long-term picture is this bleak, but if we get a gap up tomorrow and overtake this high, if we do, I think we're going to fill the gap and overtake this high too. If this support level doesn't hold, all bets are off. Otherwise, I think there's a good chance of gapping up tomorrow. Part of the reason is that this is a TDST line from way back in June. Here's your 13 bars down. There's your line. And there is support at one of the bars past the line. So we're at a support level. I have some of my dates coming up. I have a double hit on Saturday, the 12th. Since the market isn't open on the 12th, that means either Friday or Monday should be a change in trend. I have other hits on the 16th and again on the 19th of this month. Of course, these change in trends could all be highs for all I know, but I think it's more likely it implies whippy action here. Well, if you want to get a recovery here, you're going to have a wave count that goes along with it. We called this 1, but it could be A. We called this 2 yesterday. It could be B. If that's 1, and you look at the Fibonacci relationship, you get a perfect 1.272 Fib relationship right at this low. And if this is an ABC, C is equal to 1/2 A right at the same price. So, I don't know how we'll open Friday, but if this low falls, we've broken through a significant support level in the market, which has most certainly topped out, if you ask me. But if we gap up, and particularly if we gap up over this high within 15 minutes or so of the open, or at least without any significant corrections, I think we could print in the 2470s. So I'm reluctant to wager any money on the long side here, but this is support and we have higher targets. And that's today's call.